You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello, 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 and welcome out there in podcast land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, a podcast where we discuss horror and science fiction, movies, television, films, novels, key references in those things, and key things that those movies have referenced and or influenced. If you're reaching us for the first time, wow. Thank you so much. Please, if you're listening to us on your podcast of choice, then just review us and give us a good comment and say hey and all of that. If you're listening to us if you're watching us actually visually
throw
on
no
the
tomatoes.
YouTubes, throw no tomatoes. If you're on the YouTubes, ring the bell, as Tim says,
subscribe.
Do all that fun stuff. Please, we would love to. We're glad you're joining us. And if you are rejoining us, thank you for doing that. We support you and appreciate you supporting us. My name is David. I'm here with my great friend, Tim. Hey, Tim, how are you?
I'm good, David. I have been just buzzing around doing my little thing. I'm actually...
What's your little thing? What have you been doing?
Well, my little thing was this week I went down the time tunnel into your territory.
Really?
Yes, I got inspired because of our topic of the day. So I decided to revisit another film with the same actor in it called The Time Machine, which is based on the H.G. Wells novel of the same title.
It is.
And it stars Rod Taylor, an Australian actor who came over to America and made good in the 60s. And he is... great in this movie as well. He didn't, he made the mistake of turning down James Bond. I guess that's what he'll be known for mostly.
Always turning down James Bond?
Yeah, because that would have been a great move for him. Otherwise, he kind of was relegated to B movies, wouldn't you say? Other than...
I would think so. I'm trying to remember where what I really remember him from other than this.
He did a lot of Western TV.
Yeah.
As they did back then, Clint Eastwood and James Arness and all those. But the two movies I know him most for are this and The Birds, as well as one of those Doris Day movies. Maybe it's The Glass Bottom Boat. When she was doing all those rom-coms with like Rock Hudson and James Garner, he was like a third in there as well. And Tony Randall.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry.
He was good. He was really good.
He's fabulous. I mean, he has got mucho charisma on screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I think he would have made a fantastic James Bond.
Probably.
The movie itself, though, as far as The Time Machine, I just love it. I did not see the remake that Guy Pearce did in early 2000s, and I heard it was terrible.
It was.
But I love this movie for the 60s kitsch. I love the Morlocks. I remember them as a child being very scary.
Yeah.
And
they're scary. Yeah.
Yeah. And I forgot that he never goes back in the past. He always just goes into the future in this movie. But
well, because again, Wells was of that, that type of science fiction philosophy that said you couldn't go into the past because you've already lived it. You can't do that. You can go into the future, but you can't return.
Well, yeah, you can, because he did.
but he does, yes. Yeah.
But it's very steampunky for being before that term was even a term.
Agreed.
It's very, I guess, Victorian. I'm not sure what the word is I'm looking for.
Well, it's often used as a good example of the visual aesthetic for steampunk. Is this movie, along with certain elements of 20,000 Leagues, again.
Exactly.
A Jules Verne movie, or a Jules Verne novel, really. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, that's what I did. What did you do?
Well, I did a kind of weird rabbit hole-y thing. I did, my daughter-in-law is constantly saying, you've got to watch Peaky Blinders. You've got to watch Peaky Blinders, which is a Netflix series about essentially the Irish mob.
Is that the one with the
Cillian,
guy I like, Killian?
uh, Cillian Murphy
Murphy.
From Sunshine, wasn't it?
And 28 Days Later.
And 28 Days Later, yes.
And he is soon to be in the new Quiet Place sequel as well.
Oh, really? He'll be good for that.
With Emily Blunt, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, she really likes it. She thinks I would really like it. When we talk about series and what do we need to get into, again, she always brings it up. So I thought, okay, I'll try it. You would find it interesting because literally the first 10 minutes are all Cillian Murphy. I mean, it's just his POV, his story, everything. I watched the first episode and went, yeah, I'll probably have to give it 3 to make sure it was okay. It's not genre related at all, but I bring it up because I went, after I watched the first episode. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go back and watch the first episode of Penny Dreadful. Same kind of time frame, everything else. And so I watched the first episode and went, see, I'm hooked already. See, this is what I mean. I'm going to watch this whole series again. It's awesome.
I never got through. I never watched the 3rd season. I watched the first 2.
You need to. It ends super not good.
It's in America, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And it ends on a well-written note. It's just not what I wanted, as a viewer, as a follower. But Eva Green is great in the 3rd season. She's really strong in it. And so is what's his name? Marsden? Who plays
Marsden?
No, he's not in it. It's the other one that reminds me of him a lot.
The one that plays Frankenstein, Victor?
No, the one that plays the werewolf.
I cannot remember. It's been so long since I've seen it.
God, that's a great
I know the kid that plays Frankenstein, though, because he's in Mr. Murder. I mean, not Mr. Murder, Mr. Mercedes.
Mr. Mercedes.
Yeah.
Yes. But anyway, while I was looking for my Penny Dreadful, I came across, you need to, I guess because I was clicking on this stuff, my Netflix account now says, you need to watch Black Summer. And I thought, what? So I watched the trailer of it, and immediately, as soon as I saw it, I remembered, that's the one Tim was talking about.
It's
zombies.
I love them because of the adrenaline pumps. I mean, it's like nonstop most of the time, but both seasons of that show have issues. The first one, I would say the first half is great and the second half peters out. This one, I would say the first half is kind of weak and then it gets really good toward the end. But
so they've had 2 seasons.
Yeah, this is they postponed a season because of COVID. And the only thing I could think of while watching it was the irony that it's called Black Summer and it's set in the winter.
Yeah, it's snow zombies, right? Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck, man? That makes no sense at all.
I couldn't get the collation either from the trailer. I was going, I don't get it. Why is it called Black Summer?
There's a little bit of a history, and I don't know much, but there's a show called Z Nation that ran 5 seasons on Sci-Fi. It's supposed to be kind of comedic, but it's about zombies. And I've tried to watch it, and I thought it was terrible.
But this is the prequel, right?
It's a prequel, and they decided to take it seriously. So the 2 guys that created it went straightforward zombie horror as opposed to what Z Nation is. So, and it's fast zombies, like 28 Days Later.
Fast zombies. Even in the trailer, they're fast zombies. I was going, no. Those ones scare me. I don't get along
and they
well
turn
with fast zombies.
Instantly, man. The minute they die, they're up, man, and running.
Oh yeah. Huge.
Well, we've gone from time machine to
Irish Mob
to Penny Dreadful to Black Summer.
Right.
What kind of segue could we? There's a lot of birds outside my window.
No, that was a terrible one. We can't do that one. It's interesting.
There's a bird plague that might create zombies.
It's interesting to be an auteur and go from a comedy to a drama. Who's a good auteur director? Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, Alfred Hitchcock.
He did some interesting switch ups of genres. So
Wow. Well, I will say that we are covering The Birds, 1963's The Birds today.
Mhm.
And this is the second Alfred Hitchcock movie we have done.
Mhm.
We did Psycho season 2, I think.
Yes.
Okay, I can't remember, but it seems like it was season 2. And, Alfred Hitchcock was known for suspenseful movies, not really horror films, but Psycho and The Birds could definitely creep over into what I would consider the horror territory, wouldn't you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's more into suspense, but I think this one's a little bit more Psycho and The Birds both are more horrific, I think, than like Marnie or any of the other ones.
I
Just
mean,
because,
I have lots of favorites. I mean, Strangers on a Train is a favorite. Rear
but again,
Window.
it's suspense and
It is.
it's
It is.
intrigue. Vertigo, same way.
Mhm.
But these two movies are his most, I think, horrific. He's just putting people in not just situations of peril, but situations of peril because of very dark, menacing reasons. It's not just, political intrigue. It's you're actually psychotic and think you're your mom, or for some reason, all the birds are attacking us,
And we don't know
Um,
why, which is very
and we don't know
Romero.
why.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, let me
that
give
was
a
that was one of my first keys was, it's definitely Romero for Night of the Living Dead for we're going to set up this situation and not explain a damn thing.
well, it's not just that. It was one of my keys too. I was like, oh my God, Romero had to see this movie. They're boarding up the house and they're trapped inside it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so Night of the Living Dead. So anyway, a brief synopsis. Not Melanie Griffith. What's her mother's name? Tippi Hedren plays a wealthy San Francisco socialite that decides she's going to pursue a potential boyfriend, which I find hilarious because she really goes out of her way once she meets this guy to try and, I guess, date him.
Well, he's Rod Taylor, though.
It is Rod
I mean,
Taylor, and I
look.
would have probably done the same.
You'd
What
get in
can I
that boat. You get in that boat.
I'd get in
I
that
know.
boat. I'd get slapped by that seagull. One of my favorite scenes. Anyway, she goes to the Northern California town where he spends his weekends with his family, his mother in particular, and his sister Kathy. And once she gets there, suddenly events turn really bizarre when birds begin attacking people. And I guess I'll just leave it at that because Hitchcock kind of does that too. He doesn't really end this movie. It just kind of keeps going.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Had you read the original story? Have you ever read it?
I haven't. I really want to, though, because I like Daphne du Maurier, and I have read Don't Look Now, which she also wrote, and that's a short story.
I have not either, but in doing the research and everything, it's basically they kept the premise of birds attacking, but changed a lot of the principal characters, changed a lot of the interaction, everything else. Evan Hunter basically working with Hitchcock very quickly. I mean, they cranked out this screenplay, I think, in a matter of months, because Hitchcock had such success with Psycho, and he wanted to play up on that. He wanted, and the studio definitely wanted his name back out there again. So they kind of rushed this through to do it. And then he suddenly stopped with all of the effects that he put in it. So they didn't get to rush the movie into production, sort of thing.
Right. And he got nominated for those effects as well.
Well, yeah, I was noticing that just in the credit sequence. The credits are very unique. Hitchcock kind of I think, set the precedent for creating those very unique title sequences that kind of then James Bond took as well to create these different, this very stylized credit sequence. Remember the way Vertigo was, the way Psycho was. This one's the same way. It's literally the opening has all of the credits all crammed into the opening of the movie, and just with silhouettes and brief shadow play of birds and bird sounds. It's almost so, I even put in my notes, okay, this credit sequence is getting annoying because it's really loud and screechy and piercing. And I think that's what he wanted. He wanted you by the end of the credits to be uncomfortable and be thinking about birds.
Yeah.
Even though then we don't really show an attack for like 30 freaking minutes.
Right.
You know, again, it's like Jaws. You don't see the attack forever after the opening.
You almost forget what the movie's about. You're like just wrapped up in her chasing this guy up to this town and what she's going to do next.
Right.
You don't even think about it when a bird just swoops down and pops her in the head.
Right. And then, so I've got two things about that. One, it reminded me of, I always said, I want to make, write, whatever, direct, and be involved in a movie that markets itself one way, but halfway through twists and turns into a different one. So and that's what Evan, is it Evan Hunter is the writer?
I've got some history on him, but yeah.
Well, he had said that he wanted to do almost like a rom-com, sort of thing that then suddenly gets scary. And I thought that was a kind of a cool thing about it. Plus the fact that, and we'll talk more about it, both of those, but this one too, but Tippi Hedren and Rob Taylor are awesome in this movie. They have such chemistry together.
They do. Actually, everybody's good in it. Even freaking Veronica Cartwright is Kathy.
Yeah. But their dialogue is so great for,
it's spot on. Hitchcock knew
good.
how to cast pretty people that could do the job.
And Tippi Hedren, oh my gosh, she is absolutely gorgeous, sexy, funny, strong. I mean, she's great all the way through this.
Yeah.
But I was going to say in the credit sequence, I suddenly saw, special effects by Albert Whitlock, the same guy that did The Thing. The remake, and did all those mats for Boyle. Edith Head did all the costuming,
and they're gorgeous.
I mean,
she wears the same thing
costumer
the whole time. Yeah,
but it works.
Right,
it's great for her.
They said she had 5 of them,
and
5 different outfits of the same.
And introducing Tippi Hedren,
right.
Yep.
And Suzanne Plachette wanted to be the star. Did you read that? But she
no.
Yeah, well, she felt she was a leading lady, but she didn't want to lose out on being in an Alfred Hitchcock movie. So she took the lesser role, and then he cast her in Marnie. And she, I think, turned him down or joked with him, no, not unless you give me the lead. And, Tippi Hedren was the lead in that movie as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Rod Taylor, Sean Connery was originally offered The Birds and Rod Taylor Marnie, and it ended up being backwards. And that's how, Rod Taylor ended up being in The Birds and Sean Connery ended up being in Marnie, which is really weird because we just talked about how he had turned down the James Bond role. So they were clearly up for the same roles. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah. I had forgotten Suzanne Plachette was even in this, and I somehow missed her in the credits because I think I was momentarily closing my eyes from bird squeaks. But so when she popped up as Annie, I was going, oh my God, that's Suzanne Plachette. That's Bob Newhart's wife. What's she doing in this movie?
Yeah.
I'd forgotten totally.
Well, and I thought she was the one that got her eyes pecked out, and it ended up being some guy I didn't know. Because I remember scenes from this as a kid. And speaking of which, do you remember the first time you saw this?
I saw this at the Princess Theater. They were showing it in a re-release, of course, sort of thing, and it was like a Saturday afternoon matinee kind of thing. Because I have always remembered. If you said to me The Birds, what comes to mind is there's a guy with no eyeballs, gets his eyeballs pecked out.
Yeah.
There is the scene with the gasoline, and she's in the phone booth. Yeah.
That man, he's lighting a cigarette.
And her trapped in the room with the birds. Those are the
she
3.
Can't get the door open.
Yeah. Those are the 3 big things I remember. He can't get the door open, her body's blocking it, and she's being attacked by birds. those were the three as a kid I remembered from this movie. That's what my takeaway was those three scenes.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't.
What about you?
I didn't see it in a theater. Honestly, we talk about nostalgia and I don't know, a sense of I can't think of what the word is I'm looking for, where you just feel a bonding with these films from your childhood. And the reason I bond so much with this one is that I started watching horror movies at an early age, but my mother was real careful to let me not. I mean, like, she wouldn't have wanted me to see some that she thought were too scary. This is one of those that she would let me watch from a very early age. And so I know that it used to come on TV a lot, and that I used to get to watch it a lot, just on reruns, Saturday afternoons or Friday nights, what have you. And I just loved it. I just thought, this is a fantastic movie. It was before I knew, who Alfred Hitchcock really was or anything, and the style, just the subject matter alone.
Yeah, it's interesting over the years watching it, because this is I've probably seen it 10, 12 times. I would think this is a very manipulative movie. Most of Hitchcock's were, but I think Psycho and North by Northwest, although they have moments of great cinematic, people have mentioned them over and over repeatedly as great cinema. I think their stories develop really strongly and very well, and I don't feel manipulated. But this one, Vertigo and Marnie, all three, I feel like, okay, he wants me to do this here. Okay, he's showing this for a reason. Okay, there's a reason that this is happening this way, and he's framed it this way.
But you don't think that? I think he's always that way. You don't think so?
No, I don't think, like I said, I don't think that is bad in Psycho. Psycho's shots, although they're cool, clever, creepy, work for me. They're not as traditionally, they're not, well, to me, that's just what I mean. It's just, for me, this one feels manipulative. It feels like there's a reason for stuff.
Do you think?
Yeah, I do think a lot of his movies do.
Do you think that has anything to do with him being fond of sound stages and hating shooting on location?
No, I think this does that a lot better than Rear Window. Rear Window feels like we're in a studio the entire freaking time, which we are.
Right.
This one doesn't. I mean, there are entire scenes like, the gas station scene, even the house, they're boarding up the windows outside and everything. There's a good feel of exterior in this, as opposed to when she's driving the car.
Yeah, did you know that scene in New York City is only half location, half soundstage? That when she walks behind that sign and comes out the other side, she's on a soundstage?
Yes.
That is wild to me. And it was all because he hated filming on location. He just had them build it so that they could make it match.
Right. He couldn't control the thing. And then to further throw the audience off, he adds the wolf whistle that she reacts to. She turns around like flattered, like, oh. Well,
it's an homage to a commercial he saw her in. There's a commercial where she gets catcalled, and that's where he saw her first, I guess. Yeah. Before he cast her. Yeah.
And all of that is right before his cameo with the dogs. Which I found out were his dogs. They're really his dogs. So I thought that was kind of cool.
It is kind of cool.
I love that whole first scene. That whole first scene sets both of them up so well, even though we don't know a lot about them. What I loved this time watching it was, I was going, okay, when do we find out she's got like the rich daddy? And we don't until later on when she's talking to mommy, like 40 minutes later.
Or when he's talking to mommy and she talks about her being in the papers and being nude in Rome. Yeah, yeah.
Right. And we don't know his job until later on. No, we do, because she says, I know you, I saw you at the courthouse.
That's right. She does. I can't remember what he does, though.
He's a lawyer.
Okay.
Which is why that makes all of the dialogue work so well, because like he keeps asking her questions. All of their scenes together.
He knows exactly who she is.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. And the sexual tension is there.
Oh, my gosh.
It's awesome.
And then he ends, manipulation. He ends that entire scene with her grabbing the lovebirds and running out with that bird's eye view, literally, of way above the set, watching her go down the stairs and then exit the front door and all of that. And I was going, okay, that was cool. That was just really a cool scene. But I really thought this movie moved faster than I thought it did, because
really, because it seemed longer than I remember.
Yeah. And it seems like I was going, wait, when's the diner scene? I thought the diner scene was like near the first half of the movie here, but it's not.
And I was thinking,
like
all of a sudden they're hiding from birds, yet the schoolhouse scene hadn't happened yet. I'm like, where's the schoolhouse scene? I was like, should that have happened before the birds attacked? I was all confused, man.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's go back a little bit. Sorry, I think I lost you there for a second.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
You're good. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that Evan Hunter did the screenplay. Most of you people out there that read crime fiction will recognize him as Ed McBain, who wrote the 87th Precinct series. That was one of my dad's all-time favorite novel series. There's like 87 of them. There's a ton of them. He also wrote a lot of other crime and cop fiction. He kind of got a break with this movie, and there was apparently some weirdness with him and his publisher and him writing. They basically said, you're not going to be taken seriously if you write cop fiction. So they made him take a fake name, Ed McBain, or vice versa. Forgot the details, which is totally bogus now, but at the time, so he's written under he's been famous under two names, Evan Hunter and Ed McBain. And he and Hitchcock hit it off. They did supremely well with this movie. They were friends and worked really well together. So much so that he hired him to do Marnie, where they got in a fight and never spoke to each other again. Basically,
kind of sounds like Tippi Hedren's story.
Well, and Evan Hunter or Ed McBain has a novel out, a nonfiction novel about his relationship with Hitchcock and what happened. And it turns out that he objected to the rape scene in Marnie. And that was really the main reason that Hitchcock wanted to make the movie. It was because of the rape scene. And they just butted heads, and he ended up getting fired, and they hired somebody else to write it. So, and he wrote an alternate scene and said, here, just do it this way. But Hitch wouldn't do it. Hitch wouldn't have it. Oh
no. Once he sees it in his head, that's what it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very Kubrick-like, I think, in a way. I think Hitchcock and Kubrick to me have always been auteurs because their visions are very precise with what they want,
Just different generations. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
The movie was budgeted at about $2.5 million. It says it only grossed 50,000 worldwide. That is not right. So IMDb fucked up. We mentioned that it was based on Daphne du Maurier's story, The Birds, which was purchased originally for an Alfred Hitchcock Presents episode. And then he decided it could be a full movie. And that's how he ended up with the property. He collaborated, believe it or not, with Bernard Herrmann on the score for this film, which makes sense. He had just done Psycho with him. And it was Bernard Herrmann's suggestion to use no music at all. And he takes credit for that suggestion, even though he didn't get paid. So I thought that was
I saw he was musical consultant, but there was no score.
So he may have got a little bit of money, but not much. But yeah, he thought the movie would be more powerful without music. And I have to agree, it's pretty powerful.
I do agree.
Yeah.
I think the audio design alone through most of it is really strong. The one that always hits me that I remember is they're so quiet getting the kids out of the classroom, and then it cuts and we see that same shot of all the birds, on the jungle gym and everything. And you hear the feet running, and that's what makes the birds jump and everything.
And you hear the feathers start ruffling. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's just great, you know.
It
And then
sounds
it's
amazing.
screech heaven for the next like 5 minutes. It's just crazy.
Well, I was going to say some of the music that you're missing is that screeching that was annoying you in the credits, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to talk briefly about any particular scenes before we move on to the cast?
Well, I want to say I've got a couple, and maybe throw in some trivia with them too that I found out that I didn't know.
Okay.
Let's see. We had talked about that scene, and that scene is actually, I remember when I was in film class, one of the few film classes that they offered at UT. That scene, the schoolhouse scene, is actually was taught as a great example of montage, which is what he uses like in all the big set pieces in this. The diner scene, the scene in the bedroom, and then the scene on the scene in the school are all montage, but they're all done from POV montage. So two things, I guess, from a cinematography. One, the schoolyard is taught just because of the timing, the pacing, and everything. And it's so atypical Hitchcock. You know, he's got that interview he did that I've always used for people for suspense, which is, you know, and the way he talked about it is you have two people, they're sitting down at a desk and they're talking. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about something trivial like baseball or something, mm-hmm. you know, except he goes, baseball, you know, but then all of a sudden there's a huge explosion and they're both dead.
There's a bomb.
Nobody cares about that. Right. But if
it's a jump scare. He says it's you're scared for just a moment and that's it.
Yeah, because he said everybody can be scared. I can have 3 minutes of black leader in a white space with a bang and people will jump. That's not scary. Mm-hmm. You know, but then he says, they have the same scene, the same two people at the desk, they're talking about baseball, but at the very beginning, as they're talking about baseball, you just pan the camera down and show that there's a bomb underneath the desk and it's ticking. And then you just pan back up and don't change anything else. Just keep, but the audience will go mad because they're going, don't talk about baseball. There's a bomb under the table. You know, so he does that with the schoolyard scene. Right. We see the birds and we know they're coming, but she doesn't. And it's not until that great pan around where she turns her head and suddenly the whole playground.
The whole jungle gym is completely covered in birds. Yeah.
In birds. And it's great suspense. It's great mounting tension.
And the whole time, the thing that you're leaving out, to add the baseball conversation, is the whole time the children are singing that ridiculous kids song in the background. You're hearing this dun 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 dun. I can't remember what the song is, but that whole sequence is the kids singing and the birds slowly landing on that.
And her just smoking a cigarette.
And her out there smoking a cigarette.
You know, it's awesome.
And you're just like, don't smoke, get those kids out of there.
Right.
There's a bomb on the gym set.
There's a bomb on the gym set. It's going. Yeah. They do that very well. That's a great sequence. But I wanted also, the secondary thing was all throughout this, he does POV edits, meaning if you look back at it, there are never, and this is unusual for movies, especially now, there are never any over the shoulder shots in this movie. Even though there's a lot of dialogue and there's a lot of two-person dialogue. But, you know, standard now is you see the shoulder of one person who's watching the person that you're seeing. And then you cut the other way and you see the shoulder or the back of the head.
I don't know that that's standard now. That's been standard for like decades, hasn't it?
It has, but it's very common now. It's very easy two-person shoot. He doesn't do that at all. in one shot in this entire movie.
That's
Everything
because
is
his
from
people are so beautiful. He just wants to fill the screen with their face.
well, and everything is POV. So it shows, her and she looks to the left. Then we cut to what she sees.
Yeah.
Then we cut back to her or him or whatever. Everything is POV cut back and forth, which is great because again, he's controlling what we see in the frame very tightly. And I think that works. Again, well, what about you? What favorite scenes? I've been droning on.
Well, I mentioned earlier, and this has been a favorite scene of mine since David Farmer and I were friends. And it's the scene where she's out in that little dinghy and that bird swats down and pops her in the head. And I mean, she is bleeding. It is bad. But what I love more now about that scene, watching it again, is the whole scene where she gets the boat, goes out to the island, sneaks in the house, puts the lovebirds in the house, sneaks back out to the boat. Rod Taylor's character, Mitch, pulls up in the pickup truck and you're like, he's going to see her, but he doesn't. And she ducks down. And then when he goes in, I think she starts the boat and then he comes out and he's looking around and it's like you said, it's all her POV. And he's like, he sees her, he knows who it is. He gets in the truck and you see her going back across the bay and he drives all the way around the bay and gets there to meet her right before that bird swipes her in the head.
Yep.
And he sees it. He's there to see it hit her.
It is a well-plotted. It's a well-plotted sequence. The whole thing is. It
I just
runs
thought that
very well.
scene, and it all takes place on a big body of water.
And again, that Hitchcock's having a ball because he goes, I'm going to have them all feel tension and suspense about her not being caught delivering these birds. Something as silly as that. And it's still going to be, and will she make it back to shore before his car gets there?
Exactly. That's what you're thinking. It's like, that's the tension. You forget all about this movie being about birds attacking people until right before she pulls up to that dock, that one swats her, Wow.
You mentioned David Farmer, and I seem to recall him really liking the avian lady, the old lady that liked the bird, that knew all about the birds. There's 466,000 species of birds.
He may have. I don't remember.
I think I remember him saying that was his favorite character in the movie.
The one thing I can remember him really liking was a very bizarre cut when the kids are running from the birds after the school scene. And there's one cut where this one girl just yanks her head around and just goes, right in the camera. Yeah. I mean, it's like face first. That makes me think of him big time.
Yeah.
And she's not a main character. She's just a
no, she's one of the kids running away.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the diner scene in general.
Exactly.
It's probably to me, it's like the third act climax before you're getting into the last part, because it's the first official, now everybody has to believe us, the birds really are attacking.
The zombies are here. Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing. And the way it builds from nobody believing her, and actually the fact that she's on the phone and everybody in that freaking restaurant is looking at her. And then she gets into all of these unique viewpoints of what's going on, from the prophetic drunk in the corner saying it's the end of the world,
and then you've got the know-it-all that knows everything about birds and it's like, no, they won't do that. They won't do that.
To the one guy that agrees with her until suddenly everybody starts to kind of turn. Then he says, well, maybe I was wrong.
And then you've got the mother with the two kids. You're frightening my kids. Shut up.
You're
shut up.
Frightening the children. Yeah.
And a whole bunch of people in there.
And then all of that tension builds and builds until we get her leaving. I have to go outside, but no, she comes screaming back because the birds are literally attacking.
Right.
We get that whole great suspense sequence with the gasoline. And look, what'd you say? That man's smoking a cigarette.
Oh my God, that man's lighting a cigarette. He's going to throw that match down.
Or a cigar or whatever.
It's like a cigar. And it's like they have to explain it even though we can see it.
Yeah, we know what's going to happen. And then it goes to that incredible literally POV shot of the
Mhm.
birds watching as the
Mm-hmm.
flames go, and now suddenly they come down. Then we think, okay, that's bad enough. But then we get to the phone booth,
Mhm.
we get all of that, and then we finally get back to the diner, and now suddenly my big key, and the only reason I'm saying all this is to get
Oh
to the
yeah,
key
I know
of
where you're going.
it's the mist.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's the
she is
mist.
Mrs. Carmody, man. She
It is. It's like Stephen King just lifted that scene out and put it in a grocery store and called
Yeah.
it The Mist, man.
This never happened until you came to town.
Yeah, well, actually, it's very Arthur Miller when you think about it. It's like the
Oh, true.
Crucible. They're all
True.
blame. It's like we got to find somebody to blame. It's her. She's the witch. She's the
Blame
witch
the
that brought the birds.
outsiders. She's the witch. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But this
it's a
is
huge key.
this whole sequence is the closest he gets to any kind of explanation, because he literally has them talking about, hey, I need more fried chicken in here, down to, well, they're just a bunch of birds. Who cares? They all deserve to die. Filthy animals, yada, yada. The guy
Right.
that already hates them. And then the other guy, the lady who defends them and says, well, if they decided to take over, we could never win. There's
Did
too
you know
many of
there's
them.
over 5 million species of birds in North America alone, or whatever? It's like, what? Where are you getting these figures? She's just pulling them out of her ass.
Yeah. And that goes along to, all of the later ones of all those, that I think people stole from it, all those eco movies, ecological movies.
It's a very man versus nature type thing. Yeah, for
right.
sure. Mhm.
Right. And the fact that we don't stand a chance if the insects actually rebel,
Right.
sort of thing.
We don't.
And no, we're very delicate creatures.
I need my toilet paper.
Anything else scene wise? And then I guess we should do your cast.
You mentioned the diner scene. That's definitely in there.
Yeah.
The schoolhouse scene we talked about. I guess the only other, I had always remembered Suzanne Plachette in a corner with her eyes pecked out, and I forgot that it wasn't her. She's actually dead on the lawn. It's some old guy in a corner. They find his eyes pecked out.
Yeah, Bob the farmer or whatever.
Yeah, it's the one that he goes and investigates without her. They go out and look. But
I have a little trivia about that scene right there. Not just I by the way, love the effects of when of her going down that long hallway, and this is Melanie's mother are going down, right? Or Tippi's mother. It's Rod Taylor's mother.
It's Jessica Tandy. Her name is Lydia.
It is Jessica Tandy. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's goes down the hallway and looks in, and the way that whole room is just trash with like a bird body in the window glass.
Oh yeah, this is when she drops her purse and doesn't go back and get it. It drove me crazy. I was like, go get your purse.
Well, the sequence actually, she tells him and Tippi she's going to go over to so and so's farm.
Melanie.
She's going over,
or is it Melanie? Yeah, her name is Melanie.
She goes over to the farm because her chickens in an earlier scene won't eat.
Right, that's right.
And she blames it on the feed. So she's going over to that farmer's guy to see, are your chickens eating?
Exactly.
Anyway, she drives up in the big truck, which just seems odd to me that they have.
No, I thought it was great. I love seeing her in that old truck driving Miss Daisy. Okay.
So she driving Miss Daisy comes up in the old truck. She says, "Where's he? I haven't seen him this morning. He must still be inside." So she goes inside, finds his body, eyes pecked out, blah blah blah. We cut back to the long shot, and she's driving away.
It is a good shot. I mean, it is a good scene. She just comes running out of the house, terrified, and takes off.
Well, if you'll notice, she drives up, everything's fine, big long shot of the little baby truck, driving over.
Mm-hmm.
When she drives away, huge dust clouds, everything else. He filmed that in reverse. He did her driving away first, so there would be lots of dust and panic and chaos. Then he had the guys wet down the entire road for her to drive up with no dust, no nothing. So it would be so calm and quiet when she drove up, but then when she drives away, it's all crazy.
Oh, and man, she is hauling ass too, man.
She is. And then
truck
when
is
she
squealing.
gets there, she doesn't even say anything. She just pushes them away and goes running in the house.
Oh, Mitch.
Mitch. What?
Yeah,
What?
talk about a Norman Bates kind of thing there, man. What's going on with Mitch and his mom, man? She's really attached to him.
Well, I've got stuff on that later on. We get into like themes, but I've got a couple of things for
and
that.
then one last scene before we move on, and this movie is filled with marvelous scenes. This is a marvelous movie, so we could probably just say, watch the entire movie and you'll see every great scene.
Yes.
The last scene, I guess, would be the one where they're in the boarded up house and the birds are coming down the chimney and they're having to put the table over the chimney, and they keep walking by the front door and not noticing that beaks are starting to come through the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's just, it's so Night of the Living Dead. I was like, holy shit, Romero saw this movie. You know, he saw this movie.
Well, and at first, and I went back and watched this sequence twice, because at first I was going, okay, why is Grandma just pulling Kathy all over the whole freaking house? She's like going over to this corner, and then she moves over to the other corner, and then she moves over to the other, and I'm going, what is going on? Why is she? But it's because every time she goes somewhere, you see some possible entry near her. There's a window, there's a curtain, there's a door to the other room. We see the birds pecking because he's in the hallway, and so looking at it again, he's manipulating us to go, they're not safe no matter where they go.
Right.
No corner is going to be safe from these things.
Mm-mm.
They're going to get in eventually, which sets up the whole, I'm going to go upstairs, Mrs. Bates. I'm going upstairs.
Yeah, big time.
One of the few motivations I don't understand in this movie, though. Everything else kind of makes sense, even down to Annie doesn't really trust Melanie, and Melanie doesn't really trust Annie because obviously there's some history that we don't know about.
Oh, yeah, man. She's jealous big time because she went out with Mitch at one time, but now they're just friends.
Right. I want Mitch to be happy.
I want
no,
Mitch.
You don't, bitch.
No, you don't. Smoke that cigarette. No, you don't.
No, you don't. Well, I'm going to bed. But after that initial attack, everything gets quiet and everybody kind of relaxes. And it shows Melanie looking around, and Kathy and Grandma are still kind of huddled over there. That's fine. They're comfy now. Looks over. Mitch is asleep in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to go upstairs.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
What? Why?
And then she goes up and she finds there's a giant hole in the roof and the birds are filled in the bedroom, or there's plenty of birds in the bedroom.
Oh, yeah. She has. Yeah.
And she
Which
gets
is a great
attacked.
sequence, though. Oh, my gosh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really
and
good.
she can't get out because she's fallen, and I guess she's just too weak to get up and open the damn door. She just lays there and blocks it.
Yeah. Well, it bites her. They've bitten her hands, her hair, her eyes. They're just pecking. Good thing they didn't get her eyes like, what's his name?
Oh, my God. The special effects in this movie are something else.
Yeah.
With the opticals, and then you've got the puppets, like when the kids are running and you can see them on their biting at their neck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is great. It's just great. I can move on to cast because there is a little bit of history about this cast, if you would like.
Sure.
I have mentioned some. Rod Taylor was not the original choice for this movie. He originally wanted Farley Granger, who, if I'm not mistaken, is in Strangers on a Train. He's definitely in Rope, isn't he?
I think so.
I think he's in one of those two movies. He may be in both. Anyway, I get confused with my Hitchcock heroes. Anyway, he was unavailable because of theatrical commitments. Rod Taylor ended up playing the role, but apparently Cary Grant was briefly considered, but he decided against it because he was way expensive, and he thought he could make the movie a lot cheaper with Rod Taylor. So Cary Grant could have been in this movie like he was in many other Hitchcock movies of the time. And then again, I mentioned that Sean Connery was up for the role of Mitch too, but he preferred playing Mark in the next film, Marnie. So evidently he was reading both scripts simultaneously.
Obviously. Yeah.
And I guess Sean got preferential treatment. I don't know. Fuck them. I think Rod Taylor's fantastic in this movie, and I would rather see Rod Taylor and I don't know, Zardoz. I don't know.
Oh yeah. I could. Yeah, that would have been better.
We mentioned Lydia, the mother that Mitch seems strangely attracted or attached to, or she's actually more attached to him, I think, than vice versa. Is played by Jessica Tandy, Miss Daisy herself.
And married to Hume Cronin.
Yeah, Hume Cronin's bride. Early role for her. She's mighty young in it, considering she's a totally different generation than the rest of this cast. Suzanne Plachette was Annie Hayworth, but Evan Hunter, the writer of this film, wrote it with Anne Bancroft in mind.
I can see that.
Which is kind of funny because didn't she play a teacher in The Miracle Worker? Maybe he was just picturing Anne Sullivan.
Right. Right.
I don't know.
With her hands.
The birds will peck your eyes out, Helen.
Run.
Run. Yes. So we mentioned that Tippi Hedren played Melanie, and apparently Evan Hunter yet again wanted Audrey Hepburn for the role of Melanie Daniels.
No, but not in a Hitchcock movie.
Well, Audrey Hepburn is like kind of a goody two shoes. I can't see her being all sexually provocative in Rome and chasing a guy up California coast to get in his pants.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
Agreed. I think she's too, she's a little too prim and pristine and all that. For
I
this.
agree.
And I think she's a little too weak for the strong, Hitchcock was always in pursuit of the ice princess. The blonde bombshell that was also very sexual, but very strong. Mm-hmm. And he thought he had it with Grace Kelly. He didn't have it. He thought he had it with Janet Leigh. He didn't have it. I think Tippi was probably the closest to his vision of what he wanted for these femme fatales.
You left out Kim Novak, but yeah, that was another consideration there too. Yeah, I agree. It's not the right casting. I mean, I guess she could have played against type and it might have worked, but
it would have been better to put Audrey Hepburn in the Annie role.
Agreed. I could see that too. I could see that, but she wouldn't have taken it.
I just want Mitch to be happy. Look at my neck. Aren't I beautiful? I want Mitch to be,
But guess who Alfred Hitchcock screen tested for the role of Melanie Daniels?
Lauren Bacall.
Sandra Dee. Look
oh my
me.
God.
I'm Sandra Dee.
No.
No, I agree. Apparently she didn't test very well.
Good.
And according to, you're going to love this, her biography, guess who auditioned for it? Jill Ireland of Star Trek.
Really?
Yeah, Mrs. Charles Bronson. Remember she played Layla, was that her name?
Layla Kalomi.
Exactly. And we talked about her on a Star Trek podcast on Patreon. But she auditioned for the role.
She could have done it, maybe. I mean, that would have been interesting. Tippi's just got something about her. She's just so good. And this is her debut. This is her first movie she's ever done ever. And she blows it away.
She's fabulous.
She's really good in this.
And that's what probably made it even better for Rod Taylor, because when you're cast against someone that strong, you're going to bring your game too.
But according to the research I've done, he wasn't even allowed to talk to her out of scene.
That's crazy. Why?
Well, I'm sure looking into this, the whole story of, Tippi and Hitchcock and the abuse and sexual
she was his
harassment,
sex kitten, wasn't she, or something?
Well, no, he wanted her.
I thought she was the only one that slept with him, and that's why she ended up getting more roles. But I couldn't be wrong.
He wanted her to be, but she did not. There's a lot that goes into the history of this relationship. He was extremely manipulative of her. He basically said, I discovered you. I'm going to make you a star, but you have to do what I say. So much so that Edith Head designed her clothes, her personal clothes, for the next 5 years. He
Wow.
signed her to a 7-year contract to do only films with him.
But he
That
only
was
did
it.
2 with her, didn't he?
Because she pissed him off in Marnie and would not sleep with him eventually, because the harassment became so bad that the other people on the set and the crews were talking about it, and that
Wow.
he was almost very, Svengali, he was nowadays, oh my God, he
Me
would
too.
be
Yeah.
Me Too all over the place.
Right. He was that way. I mean, he was always casting pretty women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably harassing them. I'm sorry,
I'm
but he
sure.
probably was.
I'm sure he was.
But it got to the point where he was controlling what she was eating, where she could stay, all of these kind of things, so much so that her assistants, the studio was noticing it. It became a big deal. She didn't file any grievances, but she definitely made it known that she was not comfortable and she was being abused. She said in a biography that he eventually did approach her and physically assault her and ask her to perform things. And she said, no. They continued the press junket and everything else, but he never cast her again. But because of her contract, he would not allow her to do any other movies during those 7 years.
Wow.
So for like 4 of the years, she could not work. She was essentially shackled to him, but he would have no interaction with her.
And then she never did really anything worth a damn ever after.
Not really. I think the process probably scarred her a lot.
I'm sure.
And then she got her obsession with animals and everything else, which was the latter part of her
she's like
life.
Michael Jackson. She's got like tigers in her backyard and shit, doesn't she?
Well, yeah, but they're not like Michael Jackson. She actually has a wildcat preserve. It's called Shambhala.
So
it's actually
that chick
really
from Tiger King. Well, I can't think of her name now.
Not him. You're talking about her, right?
Yeah, Carol Baskin. She's riding around on a bicycle with her tiger.
She's the original Carol Baskin, although I think she genuinely wants to preserve the animals, not just hello cats and kittens.
Holy cow. I just remember hearing that she had, I thought, okay, you're right. I do remember now that she does legit work with animals.
It's very awesome. As a matter of fact, where we lived in Palmdale and I had to commute down to Glendale all the time, I passed the Shambhala Game Preserve every day in my commute. Cool. And it was really interesting. It's a really beautiful place, and evidently she takes really good care of them. And helps the endangered ones and all of that. But yeah, her story is really interesting, and her kind of ties to Hitchcock and that manipulation, and then basically ruining her career. Because
and we've neglected to mention maybe to the viewers or listeners that she is also the mother of Melanie Griffith. So she's I guess the sire of a Hollywood family. Sire, that's a male word though, isn't it? She'd be the matriarch, I guess.
Matriarch, yeah.
Yeah, of a Hollywood family, because and then Melanie Griffith and Don Johnson have a kid that's now in movies, Dakota something.
Heard that.
So her granddaughter is a movie star too, and was in 50 Shades of Grey. Is that right? Yeah. So I mean, she's Hollywood royalty for sure. Even though Hitchcock repressed her and probably ruined her career.
Yeah.
Wow, that sucks.
Unfortunately, but this is a great premiere. Marnie is still a great performance. I think
I looked for it. I really wanted to watch it for this thing this week, and I couldn't find it anywhere because I haven't seen it in a long time.
Me either. I'll have to put that on my list too, because I remember her being very good in it as well. She's just got a strong undertone to her performance that Janet Leigh didn't have. That
Janet Leigh wasn't as pretty.
No.
And
Tippi's
Grace
gorgeous.
Kelly was pretty, but she didn't have this. I don't know that she had the sex kitten as much as Tippi did.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And she got away from Hitchcock by marrying royalty. I guess that was her escape, because I
Yes.
think he was probably doing the exact same thing with Grace Kelly. It wouldn't surprise me. However, she had won an Oscar for The Country Girl, was it?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that was not a Hitchcock film. And she also did High Noon, which was not so she had some clout other than Hitchcock. Grace
Right.
did.
She wasn't tied to him. Whereas he discovered Tippi Hedren. He owned her. And I think he was grooming her, kind of thing. As they say now, grooming her. What, you mean you like her? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Before we move away from cast, I would be remiss if I did not mention that Kathy Brenner was played by Veronica Cartwright, who is a key within keys in the genre world.
She's Judy Robinson, right?
She's Judy Robinson from Lost in Space.
No, not Judy. Is she Judy?
No, you're wrong. It's the little sister. Judy's the older sister. I can't remember.
Judy's the blonde.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's one of the daughters in Lost in Space. And she is the misfortunate passenger of the Nostromo in Alien.
Yes.
And she's in the X-Files, which we haven't got to those episodes yet. Mm-hmm. She's got a heavy presence in the X-Files. Now, Veronica Cartwright has been, she was a child star, and she's been an actress ever since.
When she started doing the crying scene and everything else, all I could think of was Alien.
Alien.
I was going,
like, shut
cry in every movie? What is it?
Would you shut up? You're just as annoying as a kid as you were an Alien.
Yeah, you're killing me. Yeah, that was a big key for me. Was Aliens? Yeah, good.
I mean, she's just a genre actress. I mean, I remember her most from horror and sci-fi than anything.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
definitely,
sure,
definitely.
This movie's the beginning of that.
I do have a few little trivia things that were cool, I thought.
Okay.
Again, down to that manipulation, the gasoline sequence that we just talked about, the diner sequence, is edited with what they called military precision. He literally made each shot 2 frames shorter than the last shot, just to increase the tension and the pace all the way through that. I thought that was really interesting.
So that the scene clips are shorter progressively.
Yeah, each shot is shorter so that it's building pace as it goes.
We mentioned Black Summer earlier in this podcast, and if I'm not mistaken, the first season of that, each episode got shorter till the end, and the last episode was like 20 minutes. It was just like really short.
Really?
I think they were trying to do something similar.
That's kind of a gag. That works, kind of, sort of, I guess.
Not really, but anyway.
In doing the research, I got really excited because I found out, the special effects in this were so complex that he had to farm them out to other studios. So MGM, Fox, Universal, and Hollywood Effects all contributed effects to this movie, even though they were rival and competing movie studios. They all did effect sequences, bird sequences for this. There are 320 effect shots in this.
Opticals.
Yeah, different optical effect shots with the birds. The original Star Wars: A New Hope has 360. So it shows you how many are in this and how they're blended in ways that you don't even know.
Right. It was nominated. I mentioned this to someone the other day. He's like, "Oh, those effects look so dated." I'm like, maybe so, but they were nominated for an Academy Award at the time, and Cleopatra beat them.
Yeah, and that's just because of spectacle alone. That's all.
And money.
The lead effects guy was Iwerks. His name is UB Iwerks.
Yeah,
and he is really the reason that Disney is Disney. And we've always said that. He was the real, he is credited. If you look up Iwerks.
What else did he do?
Well, he created a little thing called Mickey Mouse. First of all, that was, and
you mean in 1923 or whatever?
Yeah. Mickey Mouse. He helped develop Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
And he developed the multi-plane camera, which became what Disney used for all the cartoons.
Okay.
He was a huge inventor. And I wanted to look this up, but I didn't. But remember, Steve Jobs had a guy that worked for him. Can't remember his name, but it's another weird kind of almost Scandinavian-ish sounding name. But he was really the developer. Not Wozniak. That was with that was on the business end. This was a designer, and he literally designed everything from the iMac to the iPhone to all the things. And their relationship was very similar to what Disney's and iWorks was.
Okay.
His son has now gone on to do a bunch of stuff with Disney and Pixar.
Well, that's cool. So
it's a legacy thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought those were just some cool trivia things that came out of it.
Yeah, I have his name down because, like I said, he was nominated for an Academy Award. He lost, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
However, they did win a Golden Globe for Promising Newcomer in Tippi Hedren.
Well, that makes sense. She should have been nominated for an Oscar.
Actually, it may have been a tie. Or either she was against, or it was a tie with Ursula Andress for Dr. No and Elke Summer for the prize. I would say Tippi wins that one hands down.
Oh yeah, yeah. Out of both of those, definitely.
And since we're in awards, I only have one other thing to say. This movie is on the 1001 movies you must see before you die, edited by Steven Schneider, which is no surprise. It should
no
be.
Surprise at all.
No,
I
thoroughly enjoyed watching this movie again, and I would watch it again tomorrow. This is a great movie.
Oh yeah, I've got. There's lots of layering of character tension in this. There's Mitch and Annie and their kind of tension. There's Annie and Melanie and that kind of tension. There's Mom and everybody. There's the townspeople and Melanie, but it gives the whole movie this ominous feeling, even though nothing's really happened yet.
It's like layered paranoia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A quote I found online, Hitchcock always said it was a film about complacency, about how people get bored and lulled in their ordinary lives. The birds represent the randomness of tragedy that comes out of nowhere.
I'm telling you, George Romero had to worship this film. Every concept you described sounds like Night of the Living Dead, except birds are a little bit more probable than dead coming back to life. It's the same situation, though, of that man versus nature thing.
The protagonists are trapped in their own cages, whether it's homes, cars, phone booths. Thought that was interesting. The themes change intentionally as Hitchcock wanted them to. It begins with lovebirds. It moves to seagulls, then to sparrows, then to crows, and finally all of them. And every one of those birds, except for the lovebirds, can be seen in the final scene in the attic, which I thought was interesting.
And that damn Veronica Cartwright keeps wanting to bring them lovebirds. I'm like, leave them birds.
And then this,
bring them with her in the cage. I'm like,
oh, I know,
no, stop
but they actually bring them.
I know. Oh yeah, these two little ones aren't going to hurt us.
Yeah, they're homing pigeons. They'll find us. The other themes that I've read online were that this movie is about capitalism versus communism. I don't get it. It's about revenge of the oppressed, which of course it is, because the birds, we treat them like birds, sort of thing. It was an environmental pastiche that ended up, in a great key, creating the whole eco horror, being the originator of the whole eco horror movies. Frogs, The Swarm, Jaws, all that kind of stuff.
Food of the Gods.
It also continues a Hitchcock theme of neurotic and controlling matriarchs. Meaning, that's kind of a weird relationship you got with your mom there, Rob.
Right.
And the last one I've got is furthering the theme. When we first meet each of the major characters, their infinite capacity of self-absorption is emphasized. Tippi Hedren, aboard Socialite, is addicted to elaborately time-consuming practical jokes.
Right. No shit, man.
Rod Taylor's self-righteous lawyer flaunts his own arrogance, sensuality. Suzanne Plachette, his ex-fiancée, wallows in self-pity.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica Tandy, his possessive mother, cringes from her fear of loneliness.
Oh, yeah.
With such complex, unsympathetic characters to contend with, the audience begins to identify with the point of view of the birds, actually the inhuman point of view. That was from film historian Andrew Saris on his review of the movie, and I thought that was really cool.
I think
so I
it is. I like it too, but it also shows. I mean, one of the reasons this movie is so good, and Hitchcock in general is so good, is the depth he gives these characters. All that psychosis is what makes these people interesting.
Yes,
and it's the same with Psycho. I mean, the reason we're obsessed with Janet Leigh is because she stole all that money, bitch. Where are you going with all that money?
Right. Right. You're going with your boyfriend? What?
Right. You know, I mean, that you don't get a lot of that depth of character in movies today. I mean, we just talked about Army of the Dead. You talk about Shallow. What depth of characters in that movie? None.
Well, and we haven't talked about the final thing, which is the final scene, the end of the movie.
Okay.
What did you think about that? The way this movie ends?
I mean, as a kid, actually, as a kid, I think I kind of liked it. I was going to say I might have been disappointed, but I kind of like it. It leaves. It's almost the equivalent of the whole Romero not saying why this is happening, only they just don't end it because it's like there is no hope. It's not going away. There's over 5 million species of birds in North America alone. You know that, David.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. I mean, I've got in my trivia that they had filmed other scenes that they had considered using for the ending. One was them getting to San Francisco and having the Golden Gate covered in birds.
Right.
Just to show the proportions from small town to large city. But I like the ending. I don't mind it. I like that there's really no credits. He just drives off and it ends.
Yeah, because all the credits are in the beginning with the bird screeches. Yeah,
it's a very unusual ending, and he did it on purpose, obviously.
Oh yeah, the final shot has 32 separate images in it, all superimposed together.
God, that's crazy.
32 separate elements are put into that final.
Well, lots of them are like layers of birds.
Yeah,
on a
bird
fence,
layers,
on a tree limb, on a roof, whatever.
Yeah. I thought it was very interesting. I think he learned from Psycho that he didn't really need the detective to come in and or the psychologist to come in and give the big explanation. You know, he didn't need that wrap up. It actually makes us ending. It makes us more uncomfortable to know that, okay, this group may have lived, maybe we don't know, but what's going to happen? Right. You know, and leaving it so ambiguous, I think, was pretty daring at the time. And it's memorable. It works for me. I really like it. I think it works as an ending.
I totally agree. And I can't quit saying that George Romero was inspired by this film because I think it led him to do something similar with, you know, an ending like the main hero getting shot. Yeah. You know.
That's my other big key is Night of the Living Dead. I've got like 3 different times in my
Yeah, I mean, this Night of the Living Dead's all over this movie, and I never put the two together until this viewing. That's what's so jarring to me and why I keep bringing it up is because I had never really seen it before. Yeah. I have a few trivia things before we get to keys. I found this hilarious. When audiences left the UK premiere at the Odeon in Leicester Square, London, they were greeted by the sound of screeching and flapping birds from loudspeakers hidden in trees to scare them.
See, that's like a William Castle thing. That's awesome.
It is, but it's
really good.
Yeah, it's great. Mitch Zanuck, owner of the Tides restaurant at the time of shooting, told Hitchcock he could shoot there if the lead male in the movie was named after him, and Hitchcock gave him a speaking part in the movie. Hitchcock agreed, and Rod Taylor's character was named Mitch Brenner, and Mitch Zanuck was given the part where after Melanie is attacked by the seagull, you can hear him say, "What happened, Mitch?" And he's
Oh, he's the
Mitch.
little fisherman guy.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was great.
That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and that's a location story, you know. He didn't film much on location, so that's kind of
Nope.
cool. I told you about the other ending. A lot of those scenes, like the gas station and across from the restaurant, did not exist, but they built them after the movie was filmed so that people can now go there and see them. I thought that was kind of funny.
Make your own tourist attraction.
Right. Make your own tourist attraction.
They did that with, okay, that's a great key because they did that with Twin Peaks. They actually changed the name of the diner so that, everybody would treat it like a tourist attraction.
And get a piece of pie.
Sold cherry pie and black coffee. Yep.
My last little bit of trivia is we'll also tell you what a scoundrel of a director Hitchcock was. And it doesn't have to do with women. It has to do with animals. When the birds are flying around in the birthday party, they weren't popping the balloons. So they taped their beaks shut with a pin on them. So when they flew into a balloon, they would pop. And one of the birds got away and would have died because he couldn't open his mouth. And they found that bird and apparently rescued him.
Rescued that bird.
Yeah,
they gave
hours
it to
later,
Tippi.
they found that same
Take
bird.
back.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, PETA, can you imagine today? No, that is never going to happen. But anyway, yeah, there's a story about, the guy tells a story about how they had to hunt all over the place for that bird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So wait, let me see if I remember the sequence too. So the birthday party was seagulls.
I think.
Then when are the sparrows? Oh, that's when they're having dinner and they fly through the chimney.
It
They
is.
fly down
Those
the
are
chimney.
sparrows.
Okay.
And you're right. It was a seagull whose mouth was taped shut because I think they found him on a beach. Yeah.
Yeah, because all the kids are attacked at the birthday party by the seagulls. Yeah. Oh, yeah. When he's they're out standing on the beach, and I have in my notes, she's in high heels on the beach. Really? She's literally walking in sand in high heels. And then he's got whatever it is. It's like wine, it's like, I thought of Patron, but he's got something in two glasses that they're drinking on the beach, because when he goes to save Kathy and everything, he throws them down. He throws the bottle.
Oh,
and
what's
the two
funny
glasses
is when
down.
they come out off of that sand dune, which is clearly an inside shot, soundstage. They
Inside
both
shot,
just kind of
yeah.
tossed the glasses aside. I was like, why did they do that? That is so unnatural.
Yeah, they just throw them down and go running toward the seagulls, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that now. That's funny. Okay,
what
we are
keys
running.
do you have?
Yeah, we're running a little late. Let's move on to keys. I don't know why I have it in here, but for some reason I put Rebecca, which is a Hitchcock movie. Why did I put that in there?
It's a Hitchcock movie.
Maybe it's because Rebecca's living in the shadow of the former wife, and maybe Melanie's living in the shadow of Lydia. Maybe that's why I did it.
Yeah. And that's definitely well conveyed. The way she picks up the hints from them, and the way it's not said until she finally mentions it to Lydia. And she goes, well, I just want Mitch to be happy, or whatever, he's just a friend now. We're not buying that. No.
And I mean, I guess we could say any Hitchcock movie, but I also have Psycho as well. And I guess because it was another horror movie. Or
well,
shocker.
also in about a few years, Rod could turn into Norman if he keeps loving his mother this much.
Maybe.
I mean, he seems like he's like a 35-year-old lawyer still living at home with mom.
Yeah.
So they have to say the line about, even though he has a place in town.
Yeah. Well, and we neglected to mention, or we didn't. I wanted you to continue with it, actually, when you were talking about Hitchcock ruining Melanie's career. I mean, his career didn't go much further either. He was at the end. He did Marnie, but then he only had a couple of other movies, and he had to go back to London. I don't know if that was because of the studios here in America not putting up with his bullshit, but like he went back to London to do Frenzy, didn't he?
Yes, He did Frenzy in London, and then he did come back to the United States because his last movie was that terrible one with
it's Bruce Dern and Karen Black, Family
yeah,
Plot.
Family Plot. That was just terrible.
Right.
I mean,
so he really didn't do too many more movies, did he? I mean, that's 3.
No, I don't think so. Not after this. Not after the whole. I mean, Psycho and the Birds were probably his big pinnacle, I guess. A good way of saying it.
I would say this was his last great film, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would think so. Yeah.
And it is definitely the last film he had that got nominated for an Oscar. Nothing he did after this did, too.
Well, yeah. No, I don't think so. Not for anything, really. No. I mean, not in any component.
No, I have that as a note. I know it hasn't. This was the last Oscar, and it was for special effects.
I mean, he did. Okay, so I'm looking at his career. He did Marnie right after this. Then he did Torn Curtain.
Oh, that's
Topaz.
Newman.
Yeah, Torn Curtain, Topaz, Frenzy, then Family Plot.
So he only did 4 more movies.
12 years, yes. So, I mean, but, you know, he had the legacy of the show. The show was on for like 6-7 years, seasons.
Right.
So that's,
he had money.
And he has his own legacy. I mean, he will always be compared to a Kubrick or compared to a Fellini as somebody who took cinema in a different direction in as far as the way it could tell a story.
John Ford.
Oh yeah. John Ford and his Westerns. But Hitchcock, I think, became this novelty to America. You know how we're royalists anyway. We love the Queen and anything we can find out about England and Mother England and all that. And this was this English guy who came over here, had a weekly television show in addition to all of these big name movies and with big stars and big female stars, you know, so he was like an oddity and a celeb, you know, I think he was a celebrity himself.
He's kind of living the life that we have now with people on Netflix and in movies. Only back then no one else did it.
Right. And the way he always did the propaganda himself kind of thing. He always marketed movies with himself. He was usually talking in the trailers. It usually wasn't the action image we get now. It was the director
Something
going,
very terrible happened at this hotel.
Yeah. I've got this little movie, you know, sort of, and he's talking about it himself. And so I think he was publicizing himself as much as he was
I keep
the
forgetting
film.
to show pictures. I've got tons of pictures from here. And I had a picture of him up that was a promo of him with a bird, actually, which is kind of funny.
Right.
I have also a few more keys and a little story.
Okay.
Well, we mentioned some of the Alfred Hitchcock movies. You mentioned the nature type movies. I've got Food of the Gods, Willard, Kingdom of the Spiders.
Yeah, and to me, there's always a Jaws feel to this, mostly because it's a beachside resort, you know, sort of thing. So even down to her getting off the boat reminds me of the way Hooper came in and had to be helped up onto the dock.
You're all gonna die,
you know, and goes hello, and the guy goes, "Hello, back, young feller."
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Jaws kind of allegory to this too, and the fact that we see initial attack and then we don't see things for a little while and then things keep building and escalating. That whole storytelling thematic or structure is very Jaws-like.
It is. Yeah.
Or Jaws is very Birds-like. Let's put it that way.
Right. Because the villain is there. We just don't know it, or that we're not seeing it.
Right.
Because we haven't found that body of the farmer yet with his eyes pecked out. Yeah.
Or with his head in the boat, you know, popping out.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
I've got Alien and X-Files as a Cartwright key. We mentioned Night of the Living Dead, The Mist. Oh my God, all over that scene at the diner with Mrs. Carmody demanding a sacrifice.
Yes.
Pretty
Let's
much.
throw her to the birds.
Yeah, let's give her to the birds. She's the one that brought them. She's a witch. Burn her.
Burn her.
Another funny key that I have is that Suzanne Plachette and Veronica Cartwright later appeared in episodes of Will and Grace because one is Karen's mother and one is Jack's mother.
Oh no, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
Veronica was Jack's mother, and Suzanne Plachette played Karen's mother, respectively. Did you have any other keys?
Nope, I was out of it. I did have a question. Do you think any of the other Echo horror movies were as effective as this one?
Why do you say echo? Why have I not heard this term?
Ecological.
Oh,
horror.
Eco. Okay, got you.
Oh, eco. Sorry,
like
sorry,
echo,
mispronunciation.
Like, I thought I was waiting for like the echo, ECHO.
Screech. No.
Do I think any of them did it better? Is that what you're asking?
Right.
Wow. I mean, not out of those ones I just named. No. No,
not the Swarm, Phase 4, Birds.
God, I saw Swarm in the theater. That had Melon. Didn't that have Olivia de Havilland in it? I think it did.
Yes. Yeah. Somebody mentioned the other day because in East Tennessee there were bear sightings and stuff. Obviously there are every year, but somebody on Facebook mentioned that made me want to go watch Claws, and I was going, I haven't even thought of that movie since like 1977 or whatever. But it was a movie about a giant bear, and it was called Claws.
It's funny that you mentioned that because someone mentioned on Facebook to me the other day something about Clint Walker, and all I could think of was Night of the Grizzly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was one.
Yeah. I mean, he was in, they were talking about the series Cheyenne, but I remember him more from Night of the Grizzly, obviously.
Yeah, you had Willard, and I hadn't thought of that whole, there's too many of them, we can't fight them off, sort of thing. That's a good one, I think.
Can you think of any other ones that are better? I mean, obviously not the Swarm.
No, the only one I think that would come close was I've got one and then an obscure one. One is Phase 4, I thought was a very unique look at ecological terror because it gave ants this intelligence that was kind of a hive mentality that worked. I thought it was really good in the way it told the story. The other one was really obscure. I mention all the time when I try to be show-offy and cinephile, but there was a made-for-television movie called I want to say the Hephaestus Plague, but it was a mockumentary before mockumentaries were a big deal. And it took the supposition that insects would one day rule the earth. And it was done with like nature photography, sort of thing, like slow motion of ants, taking over an entire field or whatever. But it was supposing this supposition named Hephaestus, this professor, and his theory that mid 21st century, there will be no insects will rule the world. Kind of thing, and it's a really cool little one.
I have not seen that.
It was a made-for-TV. It was like an ABC series.
Well, it's like it's like me telling you about that movie, The Bubble, the other day. I had to dig it up on YouTube because for years, I couldn't remember the title, and I had no idea what it was, but I knew it existed, and I finally put enough for the right keywords together and found it on Google.
There
People
you go.
Trap, Bubble. I forgot that the guy from the Mod Squad's in it, but anyway, I have one last little thing to read to you that I found very interesting. You'll love this. Joe Powell would certainly love it.
You had a story, yes.
Yes. Shortly before he died, Japanese director Akira Kurosawa created an unranked chronological list of the movies he considered the 100 greatest of all time. However, because he deliberately limited himself to only one movie per director. It is really more of a greatest directors than greatest films list. The single Alfred Hitchcock movie that he chose to include was The Birds.
Mm.
In his accompanying commentary, he noted that the sight of so many birds massed together caused him to feel dread and wondered how Hitchcock had managed to shoot those scenes.
Nice.
That's cool, isn't it?
That is cool. That is awesome.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Mr. Akira Kurosawa. There you go, Joe Powell.
Yeah. Take that to your Seven Samurai. It makes sense. I mean, he would probably be the Japanese equivalent, just the same way Truffaut, he would be the equivalent from France, Europe, that whole thing.
Mario Bava,
these people
Dario
that
Argento.
No.
I love Mario Bava now.
But don't be messing with my Bava.
Don't be messing with my Bava. Nope. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up for today's show. We ran a little late, but I don't mind because I think this is a movie worthy of talking about. And
I agree.
One that you folks, if you have not seen, you definitely need to check out
Yes.
I mean, the pretty people, the glamour, the humor, the subtext, and the scares and special effects. They may look a little dated today, but they worked back then, man.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
David and I would like to thank you for joining us on today's show. If you are watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. It's just a little push of a button to you, but it means the world to us. And if you're joining us on our Patreon show, please do. We have some free stuff there as well as some subscription-based content. And wow, what episode are we on this season? I just realized. Well, this is our 7th episode already. We are well into season 4.
Lucky number 7. Yeah. And definitely, I'm going to reiterate to you about to them, our listeners, or our viewers too, about Patreon. If you aren't a Patreon member, we would love for you to do that because for as little as a few bucks a month, sort of thing, you're helping us maintain the website and all that fun stuff. But you're getting special content that we do just for you guys, including entirely other seasons of podcasts. So,
really, I know we have a season of the X-Files we're in right now, and we have a season of Star Trek already completed, and we plan to do more. So, and maybe other shows as well. So,
thank you all, Tim. It's great every week.
It is, and I will see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Hey, bye.
Watch out for the birds.
Tweet, tweet.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.